It's one thing for a YouTuber to recover from allegations of grooming. It's another thing when those same allegations resurface in an attempt to recancel you. Usually this kind of attempt would cause more trouble to the accused rather than the accuser. But in the case of Parlo trying to bring up Hypocrisy's grooming allegations, the reverse occurred, turning the allegations towards Parlo, exposing his relationship and interactions with multiple minors. On the other side of the coin, Hypocrisy had barely ever talked about his planned recancellation, with most of the community outright debunking Parlo's attempt at labeling Pyro as a groomer. But what was the controversy that almost ended Hypocrysy's career? How did he prove himself innocent? Why Parlo is trying to recancel Pyro? And how Parlo is just pyrocynical but worse. As much as I want to try and fasten this part, a lot of information is needed to understand the situation, so bear with me as I explain the 5-year-old internet drama. By the fall of 2020, Hypocrisy has been regarded as a notable figure in the YouTube commentary scene, known for his commentary on internet shenanigans and video games. However, a Twitter user by the name I Love Bird, more known as Ivory Rasmus, came forward publicly revealing that Pyro, who was 19 at the time, groomed him when he was 15 years old. At the time, many users including commentary channels analyzed its claims and deemed Pyro as guilty, with his apparent silence on the matter being a factor in his guilt. However, users were starting to poke holes in Ivory's claims, having a lack of evidence on any discussion regarding age, Ivory's reluctance to contact the authorities, and another user claiming that Ivory had lied about his age in the past. During an interview, Ivory even confessed that he didn't know the definition of grooming, only claiming it as such due to a suggestion by a friend of his.
Did he ever ask you for nudes?
No.
No. So here's what I'm not understanding. And how are you groomed? Grooming thing, that brings it to a whole new level. I mean, now we're talking about people that are not just having a dirty conversation with an underage person, but plan to do something about it. I mean, is it really fair that you use the word grooming? And if that's true, if you feel that's true, where was this going?
I don't know.
Did somebody tell you to use the word grooming?
I was in a call with my friend when I like typed it out, and I typed like, I remember I typed that and asked like, is that okay? Because like, I know about this, and that was I got a yes for that. So
because it reads more like a YouTube like thumbnail. Do you honestly believe? And just be honest. Did you not understand the definition of the word completely?
I feel like it was like forcing or like manipulating a child into a like sexual situation.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what that word means to me.
That's what it means to you. Okay.
Pyro would then respond to Reddit and in his YouTube channel, disproving his intentions of having interest and physical contact with Ivory, his knowledge of Ivory's age, and they were merely two users who would engage in furry inflation roleplay through Discord. Pyro would take accountability in his part for not properly addressing Ivory about his age, but it did not mean that Pyro was trying to groom Ivory into a sexual relationship. Years later, this was also the case for another commentary YouTuber named Quiet when he was accused of being a friend of his. But Quiet would respond, stating that they have never even met in real life and that the victim had emotionally manipulating and abusing him. I had to watch my own videos to try and remember the controversy. I mean, I was really unhinged back then. Jesus Christ. I mean more creative though, I would say. Even though Pyro proved himself innocent in the eyes of the public, there were still those who would contest his innocence, but have met with negative feedback from the community, cementing Hypocrysy's innocence from allegations of being a groomer. But would you know it, there are still people who firmly believe in his guilt. Parlo learn English? Parlo personalized English lessons for effortless conversations? No, I don't think. Oh wait, no. Here it is. Parlo the YouTube accent. Nah. You know what? How about Parlo the American thoroughbred champion racehorse? Do you feel like you're wasting your time watching this video? Fine, let's just go into the fucking drama now. Parlo is a commentary YouTuber who mainly covers internet controversy and exposes. In early April, Parlo announced on his Twitter page that he would be reopening Pyro's controversy with Ivory. Parlo would also mention another case when Pyro would date a minor when he was 18 years old, even though mentioning to release of a 40-minute video and a 100-page document sometime near. By late May, all he has done related to the matter was a 5-minute video providing already provided evidence that has been contested and him constantly responding to users. But instead of a recancellation of Pyro, it has turned into a cancellation of Parlo. Screenshots of his behavior on his channel show him acting racist towards users and acting as a nuisance. In 2022, documents were made about his apparent involvement in e-ring and dating minors. I say apparent because most of the evidence provided has been lost, and the remaining evidence that survived are Discord conversations of Parlo acting horny to his members, which could be comprised of a few minors. At the same time, multiple users started doxing Parlo, causing him to indulge in self-harming activities on Discord, including having personal conversations with a 13-year-old. Look, I don't condone any form of doxing. It doesn't mean you're in the clear, Parlo. You have advocated for other people's doxing in the past, and I cannot say that Parlo deserved what he has gone through. Doxing is just fucked up and nobody deserves it at all. However, when you fight fire with fire and constantly toy with people, there will be a time for someone with ulterior motives to act upon you. Parlo would then get exposed for running an NSFW Discord server under the alias Cami Fanboy. Parlo would respond, stating that it is he that is running the server, but he wasn't aware of the obscenity occurring, and he wasn't that active on the server. However, one of his moderators of the server is a former YouTuber by the name of Natty Foresight, a known Parlo would also frequently vent and talk to people on the server and delete those messages afterwards, and then information started to reappear of Parlo supposedly having a sexual relationship with a minor. Shocking, isn't it? The main point of the issue was that the person Parlo was dating, Dupe, was 13 at the time, and Parlo didn't know about Dupe's age. There are numerous accounts that state that Dupe constantly lies about his age. I'll base this entire situation on Parlo's behavior alone. Being horny on the thought that the person you're dating could be 13 years old is alone fucked up. You gotta know that Parlo is an edgelord. Not a typical edgelord that rage baits people in comment sections. Parlo's vocabulary and everyday conversations with people has to include any sort of controversial topic. So while there is some reasonable doubt to say that Parlo was just being edgy about underage dating, it's still a fucked up thing to even say shit like this. Parlo would also emotionally manipulate Dupe by threatening self-harm. This is a recurring method in Parlo's conversations with people. The manipulation tactic list includes emotional manipulation, grooming, pressuring, dismissal of concern, and sexual interactions. But of course, the main focus of the issue was Dupe's age and what Parlo was doing with a 13-year-old. Parlo would defend himself, showing proof of Dupe's birthday being in 2007. Making Dupe 16 while Parlo was 18.
You see, when I had first met Dupe in late 2023, he had always affirmed to me that he was 16 years of age. At this time, I would have been 18, making our age gap 1 year 11 months. Dupe always claimed to have been born on April the 10th, 2007, while I was born on May the 2nd, 2005. I'd like to clarify that the age of consent in the UK is 16, meaning that the age gap was not illegal, and a less than 2-year age gap is certainly not in the slightest.
He defends himself, stating that the age gap was legal, while Pyro, who was having NSFW roleplay with a 15-year-old, is considered pedophilia. That doesn't really add up. Technically, both of you would be safe under the age of consent, but I guess that you're just special, Parlo. He would then undermine the relationship, stating that they only dated for weeks and never sent any sort of suggestive images, completely forgetting any sort of social manipulation and inappropriate discussions. I will say that there are literally no good people in this issue whatsoever. Parlo is a pathetic manipulator who is thirsty for any social interaction with anyone, and Dupe is a liar who is providing private conversations to people. But like, why are you talking negatively to people criticizing you for being a creep and trying to sway the public attention to Dupe lying when you're a massive hypocrite for labeling one a groomer and a pedophile when you're in the same fucking case and deem yourself innocent? The thing is that Parlo is someone who has been constantly targeted by malicious people over the years, and I can give a bit of sympathy, by the way. Just a bit. Because once again, if you fight fire with fire, the world will eventually burn. Constantly engaging with hateful discussions while also interacting with multiple minors talking about suggestive and obscene topics, you're just not doing yourself a favor at this point. In the middle of May, Parlo would address a couple of things. stating that he is taking a break from Twitter. That is a fucking lie. How he is being shadow banned by YouTube, his work on the pyrocynical document, and how he has up to 10 victims. Overall, this is just a whole nothing burger. So why is Parlo even trying to recancel Pyro in the first place? Parlo would state on Twitter that Pyrocynical essentially got away with reprehensible actions and the commentary community had a case against him. He wants people to stop gaslighting themselves into believing in Pyro's innocence, specifically mentioning the French girl situation. What Parlo was referring to was when Pyro was accused by Keemstar of grooming a minor in 2016. You'd expect me to defend Pyro throughout the video, but would you know it, Pyro was also a big creep at the time. In 2016, Keemstar would expose Pyro for dating a 15-year-old French girl.
Oh, and Pyro, do you remember those YouTubers that you used to be friends with before you blew up and like fucked them off? You know how they've been contacting me saying that you've been dating some like 14-year-old French girl and shit? Just please swing at me. If you're gonna swing at me, swing at me.
Pyro would deny the claim, but when images of Pyro's conversations about the girl were shown, he would later admit to dating the girl but explicitly denying any suggestive themes. Because of the lack of evidence provided at the time, many in the community shrugged off the situation and thought that Keemstar made the whole thing up. The thing was that Pyro did have a relationship with a minor, and he was willing to wait for her to turn 16, presumably to start having sexual conversations, only breaking off the relationship when people started finding out. However, the French girl would then have a relationship with one of Pyro's former YouTube friends, who would genuinely commit unspeakable torture to her. Comparing Pyro's actions with those of a YouTuber who literally human trafficked a minor for activities, you have the wrong priorities, dude. If you'll allow me to defend both of them, Pyro and Parlo are two immature people who got their minds too wrapped up in fetishes and pleasuring activities to the point where they do not realize the grasp of their actions and ended up hurting people. Am I going to condone their actions? No. Am I gonna label them as pedophiles or predators? No. Manipulative liars? Sure, they've lied their way through situations, but when you compare them to other people who have committed little crimes and have disregarded any boundary of humanity, they just seem like two socially disparate individuals. That's why I said that Parlo's just Pyro, but just worse. They both attach themselves to the wrong circle. It's that Pyro has detached himself from that circle and has grown into a person who doesn't indulge in fantasy with anyone. You can condemn his past actions and probably his current actions today with his content. You can choose not to respect him anymore, that's fine. But labeling the guy as a pedophile or a predator is just not true. Parlo, on the other hand, is an immature adult whose actions have constantly caused him mental and social damage. I don't mind him trying to call out shady actions from a circle, it's just that when you do that while also committing yourself to questionable authority of speech and activities, you're just asking yourself for people to look onto you and negatively paint and label you the same way you paint others. But until then, I'll make a follow-up video about the situation when Parlo will or ever will drop the documents and videos. Just don't interact with anyone online suggestively or sexually. Anyway, peace.